Seems peaceful, doesn't it? Think again. My name is Harvey Bodega, and welcome to Paradise Killer, developed by Kaizen Gameworks and released in September of 2020. Like many of the games we cover on this channel, this is a weird one. You control Lady Lovedice, investigator for the Syndicate of Paradise, called out of exile after a while to solve the murder of Paradise's entire ruling class called the Council. That may sound like I'm speaking nonsense, so let me provide a bit of background. Paradise is an artificially crafted island striving for perfection, but has to be in accordance with malevolent gods, maintain the subjugation of a lower class called citizens, and prevent demons from entering and corrupting everything. Now on their 24th iteration, this mass murder takes place right when the Council and Syndicate are meant to move to the 25th. As for our intrepid Lady Lovedice, nicknamed LD, she is being called out of her exile for being tricked into betraying the Council on the 13th Paradise, since she's likely the only person who can solve this mystery. We'll get more into the background later, but for now, let's examine the presentation. I mean, what can I say? It looks fantastic. This awesome, luxurious Vaporwave aesthetic seems believable as an attempt at a perfect paradise. Vaporwave is a niche internet fascination with a lot of different interpretations, but I understand it as a type of idealized nostalgia, a utopian musing of a time in the 80s and 90s. This sort of futuristic analog style bleeds into the mechanics like the menus, the hacking minigame, the dialogue, and effectively contextualizes the aesthetic into the story. It's so good that it confuses me why in certain one-off areas, heavily edited images are used as backgrounds. Just fully embrace the style, you nailed it. The style and the substance are wrapped in a tight embrace, but for whatever reason, it really hurt the map. I'll admit my sense of direction is absolute garbage, but the map is so oversimplified that it just tracks you by area rather than specific location. What's even worse is that as you unlock fast travel points, you select which point you want to travel to by name within each area rather than location. Do you know how many silent goat statues are in this game? This island is basically made of silent goat statues. Character design seems like westernized anime and visual novel inspired. Each character is as crammed full of personality as possible, and it must be a law that all men must show their chest. What is this guy's deal anyway? In the world, the characters appear as two-dimensional sprites, which can look a little silly, but it wasn't a big deal to me. Dude, are you okay? In conversations, the character sprites cycle through different emotions and poses to make the dialogue more dynamic, reminiscent of Danganronpa. But there isn't very many of them, and most are just changes in facial expression. To jump to the sound, the same issue presents itself in character voice lines, as there are just too few and they can get really repetitive, although there is a setting to adjust the number of callouts. The voice acting is just okay, and this guy seems to have a filter put over his lines because he wears a mask, and it started driving me crazy.
I am still bathed in the glory of the gods.
I can never get sick of this one though.
Nanny the hell?
That being said, the overall sound is excellent. As you may know, Vaporwave is not just an aesthetic, it's a musical genre, but other similar genres grace the soundtrack like city pop. Additional tracks are available as collectibles as you explore, and, as you can hear, environmental sounds are solid too. Exploring Paradise is going to sound good. Overall, visuals and the sound are excellent, the sensory experience is unlikely to disappoint. Alright, on to gameplay. After the prologue, Lady Lovedice is tasked with interviewing suspects, collecting clues, exploring the world, and finally initiating the trial to punish those found guilty. You explore all over Paradise to progress, either by wandering only guided by your hopes and dreams, trying and, if you're anything like me, failing to navigate guided by the map, or by using your augmented vision to highlight important characters. Clues can be found in the world, in conversations with characters, and by collecting the dots via deduction. Some characters will try to throw others under the bus, provide biased opinions or incomplete recollections, but you can interrogate each character about new pieces of evidence that you collect. This is incredibly rewarding when the trail is hot, but can be a bit discouraging when it runs cold, feeling like you're just going back and forth between characters dodging your questions. Besides these clues to find, there are oodles of collectibles to pick up. Blood crystals, the game's currency, relics, new song tracks, keys, demon philosophy conversations, pieces of lore, and refreshing beverages. There are also computers to hack, laptop upgrades to install, environmental puzzles to solve, and some 3D platforming. Most collectibles are great, but a few downsides include the relics, which are mostly irrelevant objects and feel like filler, the hacking minigame, which is much like a matching game for second graders, and only a few 3D platforming frustrations. But having so much to find keeps exploration interesting, and is usually rewarding to those who take the road less traveled. An absolute must is finding the footbaths. They provide fantastic abilities, like the meditation skill that highlights things to find for a few seconds, or the air dash that makes platforming way more forgiving. There is no fall damage, but it is worth noting that Lady Lovedies can't swim. She instead uses her powerful thighs to run without ever getting tired, which is a mechanic more games need to adopt. The controls are good, exploration is mostly great, overall the gameplay is pretty fun. Right, now on to the story. We already know Lady Lovedies is pulled out of exile to solve the murder of Paradise's ruling council, which is done by piecing together the mystery and eventually presenting the discovered evidence at the trial. Don't worry, there are no major story spoilers in this video. Why? Because you are never told when you have collected all the clues. You can initiate the trial at any time, 2 hours or 200 hours into the game. You'll discover more than one crime to investigate, and you will be asked to solve all of them. This requires you to only initiate the trial when you're comfortable that you have pieced together the mystery. Lady Lovedies, after all, is tasked with the execution of those found guilty of any crime, be it mass murder or something more benign. It's worth mentioning that just because you accuse someone does not mean they will be certainly found guilty. The judge gets a final say and runs an analysis on your assessment, determining if you have presented enough evidence. This functions more to prevent frivolous accusations or those lacking clues, but the truth is that you will likely have enough evidence to convict several different people for the same crime, but can only accuse one.
The facts and the truth are not the same.
I believe it's possible to execute every or almost every character, whether erroneously or correctly. Have you found everything? Are you accusing the right people? Are you just pulling an Abigail Williams and condemning those you don't like? Is everyone guilty of something? Is someone being framed? If someone is guilty, do they deserve to die? Will your conviction hold? Is this evidence fabricated or planted? This aspect is wonderful, and I've initiated the trial at different points during different playthroughs, which resulted in different convictions. I do think the game has a right answer, but never tells you what that may be. For example, the first time I played, I was certain of the guilt of a specific character, but on a subsequent playthrough found evidence that made me realize I was wrong and a different character was to blame. I would hate to tell you what I think the best ending is because you may come to a completely different conclusion based on what you've collected. So that's what I can tell you about the story, but let's meet this wacky crew of suspects. However, know that I may be leaving out some characters. Grand Marshal Akiko 14, the syndicate leader of Paradise's military police. She'll call you every Romanian insult in the book, but could that be a symptom of a guilty conscience?
Minorachito, you're out of your mind!
Henry Division, a citizen with a demon and unfortunate thigh gap problem. This possessed prisoner has murdered before and was found with a bloody knife in his hands. Is it really that easy?
I must be the bad guy, right?
Carmelina Silence, the Syndicate's latest egotistical island sequence architect. Locked out of a seat on Paradise's council, could her talents like her flexible back and cute dog also include murder?
This is nonsense.
Crimson Acid, the Syndicate's enigmatic idol, ex-soldier turned goat-headed secret broker. Did her lust for knowledge turn to homicidal obsession?
Business is booming.
Dr. Doomjazz, the Scottish doctor for the Syndicate, known for metal arms and medical prowess. Could his crimes include more than just not catching a hint?
I'm a professional.
Lydia Daybreak, the Syndicate's chauffeur, providing fast travel and shuttling residents from one island sequence to the next. Old friend of Lovedies. Could this Kenyan ex-assassin romantic find all fair in love and war?
What the hell are you talking about?
Sam Daybreak. Okay, what's this guy's deal? So he's Turkish, apparently Lydia's husband, an old friend of Lady Lovedies, and also an ex-assassin. Apparently before all these Paradise things, which I left out was apparently like 1000 AD or some shit, Sam and Lydia were in an epic assassin battle, fell in love, and when Lydia stabbed him through the heart, his love for her kept him alive, but he lost all of his flesh and his bone turned red. It doesn't explain how his pants stay up or why he has a horn, but I digress. Lydia and Sam got married and now he's the Syndicate's bar master. He could have done it. Witness to the end. The Syndicate's Iranian overseer of the ending of island sequences. Could this devout follower of the gods turn into murderous inquisitor?
Blasphemy!
Yuri Knight, secretary to the architect and handler of the Syndicate's ferrywoman. Known for his big ego and his shredded abs, could he also have shredded the council? Lastly, Lady Lovedies, the Syndicate's British lead investigator.
I have a bad feeling about this.
No, it wasn't you. Spoiler warning, I guess. Skip ahead 2 seconds or whatever. It wasn't your character. This isn't Danganronpa V3. But was it several, all, or none of these characters? You'll have to find out. As mentioned previously, you will find tidbits of lore about the world of Paradise as you explore. You can completely ignore these. They're almost entirely unnecessary for the trial, but reveal a shocking amount of depth regarding the world of Paradise. Although I said no story spoilers, I will put a spoiler warning on the screen now for these lore facts. Piecing together the fragments of who your character is and how this world exists is very captivating and worth discovering on your own. Okay, here goes. You learn that these islands are artificially created with the intent of achieving perfection to appease a pantheon of pagan-like gods. This requires the mass kidnapping and occasional ritualistic sacrifice of people from the real world to become citizens ruled over by the Council's totalitarian regime. Those on the Council and Syndicate, Paradise's ruling caste just below the Council, are apparently timeless, highly advanced, and maybe not exactly human. These horrifying details of eldritch gods, mass slaughter, and wholesale subjugation are just discovered as you're having fun with your wacky investigation. What an incredible setting! Then there's Lady Lovedyes, your playable character, and how she fits into all this. You're a part of this ruling class and actively seeking justice for those perpetuating this brutal status quo. Sure, Lady Lovedyes is a highly stylized character and grade A babe, but I feel she's surprisingly complex and more relatable than other characters in this game and in this genre. For example, after the trials are over, LD has to execute those found guilty, and friend or foe, she won't hesitate. Anyone committing crime is recognized by the Council as abhorrent to her. Think about this in the context of mass murdering the citizens. You can select dialogue options indicating you think it's a travesty, but you benefit from this hierarchy. When Lovedyes comes out of exile after roughly 8,200 years, there was no anger or vengeful intentions against the Council for this. She isn't thankful they're dead or believe that it served them right. She's just positive and matter-of-fact about the task at hand. This makes her feel cold and emotionless, but there are many moments that show flashes of feeling and deeper personality, like how she reacts to the statue of the god who tricked her. When she discusses her ex-husband who divorced her due to her exile. Is that a wedding ring on her neck? How despite her zeal and justice, she doesn't destroy Shinji, the lesser demon you talk to all over the place, despite him being against the law. She enjoys companionship, physically or socially, but barely talks about her own feelings. She makes mistakes and expresses regret about them. She seems driven to stern, skeptical professionalism, but embraces minor indulgences like a one-night stand or two, music, or whiskey. Almost all of this is collected indirectly and can be missed. It's discovered by interpretation, where she fits into the world's lore, her observations, and conversations with other characters. In dialogue, LD can respond with multiple opinions, and all answers may fit her character, but it's likely more nuanced than that. For example, in trying to learn more from suspects, you can spend time with them and discuss topics like Paradise's political system, morality, or even philosophy. Choosing answer choices could be you as a player having Lady Lovedyes lean either way on an issue, or maybe it's more likely that you're guiding LD into cleverly placating, pandering to, or tricking characters into revealing more information rather than representing LD's true feelings. The subtlety and show-don't-tell aspect is surprising for a game like this and makes Lady Lovedyes a fantastic character and Paradise an incredibly interesting setting. Okay, our lore spoiler avoiders are back. Paradise Killer is the debut title of a two-person development company, Kaizen Gameworks. It has garnered good reviews and achieved success on several consoles. I think in a large part this is due to Kaizen's philosophy on games, which is, quote, "We strongly believe that games should eschew storytelling and embrace story interacting. Games are an interactive medium, and being told a story is not interactive. Interacting with a story is something only games can do and creates an incredibly powerful player experience." End quote. I remember in one of their YouTube videos, one of the guys said something along the lines of, "I'm not a storyteller, I'm a game designer. But look at this fantastic world they've created." I would say that they absolutely have told a story, and a good one, just by using their mechanics as the method. I think it's clear by this point that I really enjoyed this game, and it's an easy recommend to those who have liked what they've heard so far in this video. Besides my recommendation, I want to provide my 2 cents in the promising event of a sequel, despite just being some guy on YouTube with no game design experience to speak of. Take it with a grain of salt if you'd like, but my thoughts are please touch up the map to make navigation and fast travel more user-friendly for the directionally challenged like me. Fully embrace the Vaporwave aesthetic by getting rid of the goofy edited real pictures. Maybe take a crack at a more interesting hacking minigame, and lastly, have more character sprites and voice lines for conversation. I think 15 or so for side characters and 24-ish for Lady Lovedyes would be fantastic, but I'm not an expert. Witness to the End, for instance, has 7 sprites, and 5 of them are the same with a slightly different facial expression. Obviously, this wasn't necessary for Paradise Killer to be great, but it's an easy opportunity to improve for a sequel. Lady Lovedies as a character, and the world, lore, and hierarchy of Paradise is ripe for exploration at any level. I'd love to see a game where LD has to complete an investigation during a citizen uprising or demon incursion, or having to take part in the political games of the Syndicate and Council. The possibilities are high, and Kaizen Gameworks have created a fantastic main character and world to build on. Gentlemen, you're killing it. Can't wait to see what you come out with next. As for me, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to have more content for you soon. Thanks a lot. Should I go see a doctor?